Welcome back. I'm Namrata,
And I'm Nick.
and this is Unreal Unsolved, where basically the podcast where, where we dive into the eerie, the unexplained, and the downright bizarre. And then we take it a step further by asking, what if reality isn't what we think?
Mm-hmm.
So, now that we're done with all of the intro, I mean, not the intro, but basically the podcast,
But they were done with the podcast.
the you got me. You got me.
Introducing ourselves.
Yeah, that's what we did, right? So let's just get into this, right? I'm just gonna straight away take you into it, and then we'll kind of figure out what we're doing, okay? But
I don't think you were supposed to tell them that.
it's okay. I'm giving them. See, then they can't be like we didn't know. I'm
Okay.
telling you what you have
Yeah.
to do.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So let's just get
Mhm.
this out of the way.
God.
Okay. Let's get all this. Imagine you're walking across the dry, dusty hills of southern Turkey, southeastern Turkey, actually. Okay. So it's hot, it's quiet, and nothing, like literally out of nowhere. Sorry, it's actually an open land. Let me also say that. So you have a bit more imagination there, right? And like it's just open land and there's just sheep for miles and miles and miles.
But then, plot twist, you just stumble over a rock. But not just any kind of rock.
Yeah, it's like a massive carved stone that's kind of sticky out of the ground at a weird angle. Like it's trying to peek out, from history and be like, hey, I'm here. Don't forget me. And it's like everything it's wrong.
And that's how we met the Göbekli Tepe, right? A site that, according to current dating, is over 11,000 years old. And it's older than Stonehenge, it's older than the Great Pyramids, it's older than writing, and definitely older than TikTok and us.
And to kind of help you put a stop to this imagination, or at least for now, today's unsolved episode, we're diving into the mystery of this ancient site that is turning everything we thought we knew about human civilization upside down.
Because, like, here's the thing: for decades, archaeologists,
Archaeologists.
archaeologists,
Yeah.
right? So I was right the first time.
Yeah.
Right. So they believe that civilization came in a certain order. So first humans hunted and gathered, then they figured out agriculture, then came settlements, and then came like religion and like big monuments.
Yeah, but Göbekli Tepe is like, no. Because this site, it's quite massive, right? It's highly sophisticated. It's a temple kind which is built by people who supposedly didn't even have permanent homes yet.
I love how we just give dialogue to every single one of our like things we're talking about. And the Gobekli temple is like, if humanity had like a pop quiz on like complex architecture before they even learned to like plant wheat, and like they aced it somehow for
Yeah,
some reason.
exactly. So today we're going to talk about what exactly Göbekli Tepe is,
Yeah.
how it was discovered, the weirdness around its construction, because trust me, it's weird, the unexplained carvings, and why was it buried on purpose. I said it on purpose, right? And how it's completely messing with the idea of what a civilization even is.
And some of you may like the chaos, and
Not today.
yeah, because today we may not go full chaos. We're obviously it's one of our unsolved episodes, which means like we've got facts and theories and just like your regular dose of existential dread. Um, no megalodon, no haunted dolls, just like
No knocking on haunted dolls either. Knock at the glass of haunted dolls. Yeah, okay, that's enough.
just real ancient confusion for us and you.
But don't worry, it's still gonna blow your mind, okay? Because the site has layers, literally and metaphorically.
And we're talking about like T-shaped pillars like that weigh tons and mysterious animals carved into the stone.
Caved.
Shut up. Carved into the stone, and like evidence, no, like there's no evidence of any city kind of around it. It's just a bunch of monuments in the middle of nowhere.
It's like someone built the Eiffel Tower before inventing houses. That's kind of what we're talking about.
Yeah, that's basically what happened in it. So like it's time for us to buckle in, and it's time for you to buckle in. Are you buckled in? Okay, you know why?
We will take that. We'll take the silence as a yes.
Yeah. It's like Dora the Explorer. It's like, okay. Anyways, I asked you to buckle in, and I hope you did, because like this episode may be where we find out if we've had human history backwards all along.
Oh my god. Let's dig in. You get it?
Let's dig in. Yeah, I get it. I get it. You're the one with the puns now.
Let's dig in. Okay. So now let's start with how this ancient enigma even came into our lives,
Oh, I
right?
like that word.
Or
Enigma?
more, yeah. Or
Oh.
more specifically, how it entered into this archaeological world.
So, do you want to know?
Yes, silence is yes.
No, I'm asking you.
Oh, yes. Same, silence was yes.
Oh, okay. So, in the year 1963, a joint team from Istanbul College and the University of Chicago was
Istanbul College? I don't think that exists.
Istanbul University.
Yeah, because I was like, I don't think Istanbul College, or maybe it does, I don't know.
Istanbul
University
University
seems
and
more-
the University of Chicago.
Mm-hmm.
Right? They were surveying a hill in southern eastern Turkey.
I think it's southeastern. Southern eastern?
Southeastern.
Yeah, it's northeastern.
Okay, so fine. Sorry to all of the geologists out there.
Sorry, move on. You say
Southeastern
something. Yeah.
Turkey, near a place called Sanlarufa. It's in southeastern Turkey. I'm sorry if I pronouncing it wrong. They basically noted that the area had some kind of like interesting stone fragments, and it could be the remains of an old Byzantine cemetery or some kind of medieval ruin. So nothing groundbreaking. Groundbreaking.
I see it.
Yeah. So nothing groundbreaking.
But they were
yet.
wrong, like so wrong, and they hadn't even realized how wrong they were. It's crazy.
You're crazy. So let's fast forward to like 1994. So like how many years? Like 30ish years?
Yeah.
Yeah.
34, 31 to be exact.
Yeah. So enter Klaus Schmidt. Okay.
I love that word. Name Schmidt.
Yeah. So he's
For all the
based.
new girls fan.
He's and Klaus from the Umbrella Academy.
Or Santa Claus. Or Vampire Diaries.
That dude, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, a lot of people have the name. Okay, anyways, so it's basically a German archaeologist. Archaeologist, yeah.
Right.
That word does not sound like a word.
Archaeologist.
It does not sound like a word.
Okay, move on. English is sorry to you.
Yeah, sorry to me.
Yeah. It's apologizing.
Okay. Basically this dude had a hunch and like tons of patience. Tons, do you get it? Because the T-shaped pillars weighed tons.
I'm sorry for the box I've opened.
Yeah. Pandora's box reference. Anyways. Pandora's box is actually a jar.
Okay, moving
right.
on.
So he visited the site and like learned something shocking, that the stones weren't medieval. They were actually prehistoric, and they weren't random either. They were part of something huge.
So what would you do next, right? He literally began excavating it. And what emerged from that dig was not a simple village or a graveyard. It was a sprawling site filled with T-shaped megalithic pillars. Do you know what megalithic is?
I do not know what that is. Do you know what it is?
It's huge. But anyway,
it's huge.
Like monolithic is when it's made out of one.
Yeah.
I think megalithic is just a bigger thing, or I don't know whether it's a mix of two. It's actually a good question. Monolithic is when they use just one stone and they fully carve it. Right? That I know for sure.
And then megalithic could either be like multiple stones or just a really
or
large
maybe a huge
one,
structure, right?
Yeah.
So megalithic is a structure that's made of large stones.
Okay.
Monolithic is one stone that's carved. Megalithic is a lot of large stones
like
put
merged together.
Yeah, put together.
Yeah.
Anyway, so like I was saying, so they found a lot of T-shaped megalithic pillars that were arranged in circular enclosures, and some of them were nearly 20 feet tall, each weighing like several tons.
Like Klaus Smith's
Okay, moving on.
patience. um,
I think like last time you wanted someone to do a compilation of all the time you said okay.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
they should do
No, like,
yeah,
like
they
or
should do
okay.
a okay moving on of mine because
Okay,
I
yeah,
just keep saying
yeah.
okay moving
And
on,
someone should
okay
make like
moving.
a compilation of me making puns.
Yeah,
I would watch that on repeat.
amazing. I love how they come to listen to us and we just give them work.
Yeah. So many of these like pillars were carved with like reliefs of animals like snakes and fox and wild boars, like vultures and like abstract symbols. And some even had like human like arms and hands and belts carved into them, which really makes you think, have we just evolved from all animals? Like was I a fox which like evolved? No. Was I an otter which evolved
Moving
to a
on.
human?
Here's the mind mender. My mender. Okay, mind melter, right? So, radiocarbon dating of this place and of these structures is around 9600 BC. Do you realize how far that is?
That's like over 11 years, yeah?
11 years?
11,000 years.
I was like,
Sorry.
wait, like you were born in BCE? It's like 11 years ago.
No, it's like 11,000 years ago, more like.
Yeah.
Which actually means that the like Göbekli Temple
Temple?
predates Tepe. Oh my god, what is happening with me? Like it predates like Stonehenge by like 6,000 years. And the pyramids of Giza by 7,000 years.
Exactly, right? So if you put this into context, when the Göbekli Tepe was built, woolly mammoths still roam parts of the earth, right? Agriculture wasn't a widespread thing. Writing wasn't even close to existing. The wheel hadn't been invented. And yet somehow, someone just managed to plan, carve, and erect dozens of intricate stone pillars in complex patterns.
And which brings us to like the first big mystery. Who built it and how exactly did they build it?
So mainstream archaeologists say, or basically archaeology, archaeologists? No, archaeology. Mainstream archaeology says that people of the time were hunter gatherers, right? So small nomadic tribes with no real concept of organized labor or permanent structures, and yet Göbekli Tepe just proves that not only did they build something, they built something far more advanced than previously thought possible for their era.
And obviously, like, this raises like really uncomfortable questions for historians. Like, either we were wrong about what we knew that hunter gatherers were capable of, or there was an earlier advanced culture that we knew absolutely nothing about.
And there's another twist to this, right? Like I said in the intro itself, after centuries of use, the Tepe was deliberately buried. Around 8000 BC, the people, or whoever came after, filled in the enclosure with tons of rubble and earth, entombing the entire for millennia.
And that's not even like natural sediment, right? It's
Exactly.
deliberate, almost like they wanted it to be hidden, like preserved or even forgotten.
Exactly. So, kind of summarize everything we've spoken about till now. Göbekli Tepe was discovered in the 1990s. Sorry, in the 90s, not 19. In the 90s. It was dated to around 11,000 years ago. It was built by people we didn't think could actually build anything. That's being like underdogs, isn't it? It contains art, it contains symbolism, it contains scale that rivals basically the modern sacred architecture that we have, and for some reason it was buried on purpose.
And like this is just the beginning because what comes next is even more confusing. There's like no sign of a city like even near it or like nearby. There was no homes, no food production areas, nothing that would like support the number of people needed to build and use the site.
Right? So now we're gonna dive into this one of the biggest paradoxes of the Göbekli Tepe, which is why would nomads build a temple before they even built a village?
Creepy.
So we've got this ancient buried site, right? Massive stone circles, beautiful carvings, mind bending dates. But here's where things get wild because we have no idea what it was actually used for.
And that's kind of like the core of the Göbekli Tempe mystery. It's not just that it was built,
You know
it's
what?
yeah.
Just saying. Tepe could literally mean like temple in
Yeah.
Turkish. So
Yeah.
even if you're calling it temple, I think it's fine.
Yeah, right. It's like what was I saying? It's not like
You're saying something about the core.
yeah. So it's not just that it was built, it's like why it was built.
Mm-hmm.
Because like if you look at how civilizations usually evolve, you get agriculture, then you get village, then you get towns and cities, and like somewhere along the timeline you get like temples and places of worships, like they start to appear but not right away.
Exactly. And this Göbekli Tepe kind of breaks that pattern, right?
Mm,
Because it suggests that something else entirely, that spirituality or maybe religion, actually came first. And that people didn't settle down and then start building temples. They may have come together because of temples.
right, and that's what's known as the temple first hypothesis. So instead of religion being the byproduct of civilization, Gobekli Tempe suggests Gobekli. I mixed up temple and tepe together. So I said tempe.
Temple.
So like Gobekli Tepe suggests
Tepe.
tepe,
Tepe.
tepe, tepe. Okay, tepe suggests that it may have been a catalyst for civilization itself.
And that's pretty radical, right? Because it means a small group of nomads may have gathered seasonally, bringing their people, tools, and food just to take part in ceremonies here. And over time, this gathering may have actually become so significant that they started staying longer. So it's like a townhouse for religion. But like maybe even farming nearby, right? And that may have kind of led to the first permanent human settlement.
So like in that case,
Farmhouses.
yeah, basically. So in that case, like Gobekli Tepe might not just be a temple built by civilization, it could be the reason civilization started in the first place.
Yeah, and going back to archaeologist Klaus Schmidt, he kind of firmly believed this because he said that Göbekli Tepe was never meant to be lived in. There were no kitchens, there were no hearths, there were no trash heaps. All the usual sign of habitation was missing. But the site is surrounded by hills where wild wheat grows, and recently some early grain grinding tools were found nearby.
And like that opens up a huge theory, doesn't it? Because like could it be that agriculture itself was developed to support large communal gatherings like the ones that may have happened at Gobekli Tepe?
You can just say Göbekli if you want.
Yeah, I think I'm just gonna stick
Or you
with
can
that.
make it GT.
I'm just gonna call it GT from now.
Okay, guys, Göbekli Tepe is GT. Okay, and if you hadn't heard this part, you're gonna hear us later being like GT GT. I'm sorry, but then I mean, you should
It's
have heard
not
it.
our
You
fault.
should have heard from the beginning anyway. Yeah. So instead of farming
Why are you
leading
skipping the video? You're not gonna hear this, but why?
Okay,
Video. Why are you
so,
skipping the podcast? Parts of it.
so instead of farming leading to religion, here religion led to farming.
Um. So let's religion led to farming. Religion.
Yeah.
So like, are you telling me they just dug up sand and put like a statue
No,
under
no,
it?
we're saying because there were temples and that was about maybe sacrifices or it's about getting things for the temple or when you're there, people are coming to pray or whatever and they need some food and hence farming started around
But
there.
isn't religion just like a human idea?
Oh my god, we're not talking about this.
Right, because someone could have made it up and it spread.
Yeah, oh well, whatever.
Maybe Jesus was okay. You know, I don't know anymore.
Let's move on.
Yeah, we should move on.
Yeah,
Another place where you say, let's move on.
I'll start time stamping it.
We'll make the compilation. So, like, let's talk about those carvings, right? The animal reliefs on, like, the pillars. Some archaeologists believe that they may have, like sim- symbolic.
Yeah,
That's
that's the
what
word, yeah.
symbolic meaning, right? Others think they could have been like totems, which are representations of like clans or spiritual guides, and there are like fringe theories which suggest that they're an ancient form of writing or like symbolic star map.
And it's not just snakes and foxes. They're headless humans, scorpions, vultures holding orbs, and more, right? Some of these images appear to have ritualistic or even death related symbolism, especially the vultures, which are known in some ancient cultures to be associated with sky burials.
And so there's another layer. Was this a place of worship, a site for like the dead, a gathering place for seasonal rituals, or something else entirely?
So let's take a moment to list all the main theories that scholars are exploring about it right now. Okay, one, we have ritual center for hunter gatherers. So we're saying it's a seasonal ceremonial site where tribes came together. Another theory is early religious temples. They think it was a sacred space for proto-religious activities, perhaps the earliest of its kind. Another theory is a funerary complex. So it could be possibly related to death rituals, sky burials, or ancestral veneration. Another theory is social unifier. So a structure that meant basically to foster group identity and cohesion and almost like an early political gathering ground. And the last theory that is there is a for psychoactive experience zone, where some fringe researchers even suggest that site may have been a place where people ingested hallucin- hallucinogens during rituals.
Like drugs?
Yeah, that help you hallucinate, right?
So early civilization were all drug users?
Drug addicts.
Yeah. Poppy war reference. Um, and genuinely all of these sound possible, but like none of them fully can explain why people with no homes, no pottery, no metal tools were able to build it in the first place.
So we're kind of left with one huge unsolved question, right? So was Göbekli Tepe the spark of civilization or a relic that somehow we've just forgotten?
And that, my friends, leads us to the juicier part of the mystery, the deeper and the stranger theories, right? The ones that ask us if we're missing an entire chapter of human history.
How sad would that be?
Now, what if it shouldn't be found?
I don't know. Messed up.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've talked about Göbekli Tepe. We've be possibly being the
GT.
starting point of civilization. But what if it wasn't?
Yeah, so what if instead of being the first chapter, it was actually a footnote, a rebuild or a reboot, like a single surviving page from an entire book we've lost?
So let's lay it out, right? The site dates to around 9600 BCE. Now that's just not old, that's like end of the Ice Age old. And that puts it right around the time of what's known as the Younger Dryas, which is a sudden climate shift that caused massive cooling, floods, wild weather, and potentially wiped out a lot more than just mammoths.
And here's where it gets interesting. There's a growing body of researchers, like and independent archaeologists and even scientists who believe that the younger Dryas Im- impact hypothesis. And this hypothesis basically suggests that Earth may have been struck by fragments of a comet or an asteroid, which triggered it into a cataclysmic,
Do you mean cataclysmic?
yeah,
Yeah.
cataclysmic,
Yeah.
like
It's like a chain reaction, you mean,
yeah,
right?
like a
Yeah.
cataclysmic chain reaction, right?
Yeah.
Which is like
Flies?
wildfires, flooding, and like sudden freeze, and potentially the collapse of like an unknown advanced human culture, possibly.
And Göbekli Tepe might have just been built after that impact, right? Not as the first temple of humanity, but as a way to preserve or remember something from before, something that we had already lost by then.
And that idea kind of overlaps with the legend of like Atlantis, like ancient flood myths, and even texts like the Sumerian king list,
Yeah.
which hint at the vast timelines and civilization wiped out by the deluges.
So you think about it, right? Almost every major ancient culture has a flood myth.
Yeah.
The Sumerians, the Greeks, the Hindus, the Maya, the Bible's story of Noah. What if these aren't symbolic stories but shared memory of a cataclysm?
Miraculous tales of Ladybug and Cat Noir.
Cataclysm.
Yeah. Um, some researchers point out that GT may encode these kinds of stories in its carving. So there's one pillar, so that's pillar 43, and it's also known as the vulture stone. And some believe that it could be a star map or like a comet warning.
And in 2017, researchers at the University of Edinburgh, or if you want to say Edinburgh, whatever, published a study suggesting that the carvings on Pillar 43 may align with a known comet event, possibly referring to the very impact that triggered the Younger Dryas.
So imagine this: GT might have been a place where people encoded astronomical knowledge, mythical memories, and even warnings for the future about fire from the sky or like a world reset.
And the site wasn't just abandoned, right? It was intentionally buried. And that's one of the weirdest parts because the people who built Göbekli Tepe covered it up with tons of debris. They didn't just leave it, they sealed it like a time capsule.
Which to me like raises ton,
Yeah, got you,
a
got you.
ton of questions. What were they trying to protect first of all, and what were they trying to hide, and did they believe something was coming for them again?
So here's a theory that I've heard of, right?
Yeah.
So Göbekli Tepe may be a survivor site, a theory from maybe a lost culture, a lighthouse from a lost culture. Sorry. Theory. It's not the oldest beginning, but the last echo of something ancient that got destroyed. And we always say that, we were hunter gatherers before we became builders. But what if we were builders first and then became hunter gatherers after a global wipeout?
So you're saying we
It's
kind
like,
of like learn from our mistakes?
no, I feel it's like, yeah, or it's like you existed, then amnesia happened, and then you exist again.
Uh, okay.
No, like
Yeah.
anyone who has amnesia, right?
Yeah.
It kind of when they restart their life, it's like a new. It's like you literally erase everything you knew
Yeah.
before,
Yeah.
and you start all over
Correct.
again,
Yeah.
right? So something like that, maybe.
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense.
Maybe that's
So
how then we. So it's like evolution happened,
yeah.
and then something happened that maybe either everyone who was there at that time died, or
Yeah.
something just happened that we lost everything.
Yeah.
So now we're restarting the whole journey again.
Yeah. So like, okay, that makes sense. So this basically flips everything we thought we knew. And instead of like a straight upward line of human progress, we're looking at a civilizationary like reset, a fail or a forgetting, and maybe like GT is the only thing that slipped through.
I have a question.
Yes.
You said fail. Do you mean fail? Because
A
I don't
fail.
know if it is a failure.
Could it be a failure or is it more like a fall?
I think fall would be better, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I don't know whether failure is something you would. Because technically we don't know what happened before, so we can't really categorize whether this was a failure.
Failure.
Yeah,
Could be.
I think a
It could
fall is
not
better.
be. Maybe a fall.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think. Okay, so now after we had all of this, we're gonna see how we're gonna kind of dive into stranger connections, like why were there similar structures, similar myths, and similar stonework appearing all over the world and quite far from Turkey.
Is there like a hidden network of ancient knowledge where the builders of GT like part of something bigger, maybe even global, like that kind of
Can you
culture?
imagine? Like right now, even though we have all technology, we can't
Yeah,
like
agree on what one
yeah
culture to
one
follow.
globally something. Imagine these people have built things
Yeah.
off globally. So now we're like starting down at this big idea, right? Like Göbekli Tepe wasn't necessarily the beginning, but more like a remnant. So a surviving piece of something larger, which leads us to a crucial question.
Were there other sites like this? like other GTs like scattered around the world? Like were they either like forgotten, buried, or maybe are they still like undiscovered?
Let's start with something wild, right? So Göbekli Tepe might not even be the only ancient site in its own neighborhood, but just 30 kilometers away is Karahan Tepe, which is a newly discovered site that's also dated to around the same time, or possibly even older, and seems to be part of a network of ritual centers spread throughout the Sanilurfa region in Turkey.
Okay, so I have a little doubt.
Yeah,
Right? Turkey is in Europe,
is it? My geography sucks.
isn't it?
Do not ask me. My geography is so bad.
Turkey is like, isn't it like? Oh, Turkey really gives like. Turkey is in.
It's in Middle East.
Oh my god! Yes, it is. I was thinking Greece in my head.
Yeah, in your head.
In my head.
Why my head?
I have a cold. I can't talk properly.
Oh my god. I think I'm gonna leave this Google page open.
Maybe. But oh my god, I'm so dumb.
Yeah, you cannot like just don't have any expectation with geography from me. I suck at it. I could
I
not
knew
point to
Turkey was
any
in the Middle
country
East.
in the map.
Why would I say it's in Europe?
Okay, moving on.
Right. Okay. So obviously, I think 11,000 years ago, we still had Pangea. You know what Pangea is, yeah? Right?
Yeah.
For those who don't know, it's basically like all of the land on earth was just concentrated in one part.
Mm-hmm.
And like all of the land on earth was basically an island and it wasn't broken apart by water.
Yeah.
So, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, what if this was kind of a mid ground in Pangea? Like, sort of a center? Because I think
And that's where it
11,000
started
years
from.
ago would be around Pangea times, 9,000 BC.
Yeah. That's
No,
all.
before Christ. Yeah, could be.
Yeah.
So what if, GT and like, Kara had Tepe?
Correct. Good hand. Yeah.
Yeah. What if that was the like center of Pangea?
Could be.
Right? Um, okay, this is Katie now.
Karahan tap.
Yeah,
Tepe is.
yeah. Katie. Hi, Katie. Um, and Katie isn't just like a one-off. Archaeologists working in the region have mapped like over dozen sites from the same period, and I don't think that's a fluke. It's like a civilizational footprint. Like I'm really thinking this was the mid part of Pangea.
Maybe. And it kind of suggests that people who built Göbekli Tepe weren't isolated genius stonemasons, right? They're actually part of a culture, possibly widespread, sophisticated, and interconnected that we've just completely overlooked until now.
And here's where things get really eerie because similar megalithic, is
Yeah.
that how you say that?
Yeah.
Megalithic structures like giant stone circles, animal carvings, and solar alignments appear like in places far away, both in space and time. So to like list a few, you've got Napta Playa in Egypt, which is a prehistoric stone circle that aligns with the stars and predates the pyramids by thousands of years. Then you've got Stonehenge, which is very popular
Yeah.
in the UK, which is another solar aligned structure and is like dated to around 3000 BCE and possibly even influenced by even older traditions. And then you've got Gunung Padang in Indonesia, which is a massive hilltop site that some researchers claim that could date back to 20,000 BCE if deeper layers are confirmed. And then you've got Puma Panku in Bolivia, with stonework so precise it looks like laser cutting, even though it's supposedly pre-Inca.
And while mainstream archaeology treats all these as separate, unconnected events, a few rogue researchers and independent historians believe that these could actually be echoes of a lost global culture.
Civilization that knew how to work stone, align structures to stars, encode astronomical events, and possibly communicate through symbolism rather than writing.
And now this is where it gets controversial because you have people like Graham Hancock who argue that our understanding of prehistory is fundamentally flawed, that there was a global civilization that got wiped out by cataclysm around 12,000 years ago, and Gobek
Going.
and GD is the smoking gun that proves it.
And the
Gobekli.
evidence isn't just about structures, it's myths, symbols, and knowledge that somehow keep showing up across cultures that supposedly had never contacted each other. Like the concept of a deluge or great flood, the idea of sky gods burning, bringing knowledge, the use of serpent imagery as a symbol of wisdom, chaos, or life force, and even the appearance of similar animal motifs, vultures, lions, bulls, snakes, and even like they're all carved in megalithes from
Megaliths.
megaliths, sorry, from Mesopotamia to Mesoamerica.
And could these be cultural coincidences? Sure. But the pattern recognition part of your brain starts to fire up really fast, doesn't it?
Exactly. Either humans are all programmed to build the same way and tell the same stories, or we were all inheriting something like a legacy or a memory.
So when we actually look at Tepe, we shouldn't be just thinking, wow, that's an old temple. We should actually be asking who else knew this? Because who built it like this, thought it like this, and encoded knowledge in stone? And if we're only now unearthing these sites, what else is still buried beneath our feet?
Or beneath jungles or under oceans. And there's a theory that sea level rise at the end of the ice age could have submerged entire coastal cities.
Exactly, right? Because 70% of the Earth's surface is water, and we've only explored a fraction of the ocean floor. So, what if we're actually missing entire chapters of human history because they're basically underwater?
And coming up next, we're gonna dive deep. You get it? Because under
Yeah,
ocean,
yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
dive deep into the
Or
mystery.
digging deep. But no, go on.
No, into the mystery of GT's carvings. What are the symbols, animals, and patterns trying to tell us?
And because some believe they're not just decorative, but cosmic messages, star maps, or even ancient data storage. That's how cloud was at that time. Can you imagine? Okay. So now let's look at these pillars, right? So we're saying that which were kind of the heart of the Gobek
GT, GT,
Göbekli Tepe. Why is that suddenly I've forgotten how to say it?
yeah.
Göbekli Tepe, right? Because these aren't just big rocks; they're like prehistoric flash drives, and they're loaded with something: symbols, stories, messages. We just haven't cracked the code yet.
So let's paint the picture. Look off to the distance with me. Okay. GT's megalith, megalith,
Megalithic.
megalithic pillars are basically arranged in circular enclosures with two taller T-shaped stones in the center, and many of these stones are carved with incredibly detailed images of animals, abstract symbols, and humanoid forms.
And it's not random. There's like a deliberate repetition. You have vultures, you have scorpions, you have foxes, you have snakes, you have bulls, you have birds, almost like it's a visual language.
Some scholars think that these could be symbolic representations of constellations, that the animals corresponded to star groups, and GT was some kind of ancient observatory.
A 2017 paper argued that the pillar 43 which is also called as vulture stone, encodes the date 10,950 BC using animal symbols as stand-ins for constellation. And get this, the data actually lines up with the Younger Dryas impact hypothesis because the theory that a massive comet or asteroid hit the Earth causing a global cataclysm and wiping out a previous civilization.
So, if that's true, we're looking at basically prehistoric trauma art.
Yeah.
These people saw the sky fall and they literally like etched into stone for someone, possibly us, to remember.
And some symbols even look eerily familiar, right? Like the H-shaped glyph. It shows up in Mesoamerica and Andean cultures too. So is it a coincidence, a migration link, a shared system?
And then, there's the headless humans, the snakes slithering around limbs, and strange hybrid figures that clearly don't match real creatures. And it's all giving off like mythological energy kind of thing, and not just survival stories, but sort of like cosmic warnings.
And if what if these weren't just ceremonial place? What am I saying? Ceremonial spaces, right? But knowledgeable repositories, not just to worship, but to kind of preserve memory.
Some researchers,
Reachers.
yeah, researchers even suggest that these.
I mean, aren't researchers always reachers?
So some researchers even suggest that these structures were designed to encode information visually in a way that could survive floods, wars, or time itself. Because you know what doesn't need electricity and still lasts 12,000 years? Stone.
Stone. So there's also this idea that the twin central pillars represent deities, ancestors, or even star beings, a connection between the earth and the sky, which actually is something that is followed even till now, right?
Yeah.
Like, do you know the fact, like, why the pyramids the way they are? It's because it's kind of the topmost part is the closest to the god.
Mm.
So everything that's built,
Mm-hmm.
all temples are always built as closer to the sky as possible.
Yeah.
That's even like the Hindu temples, for example, have these, you know, that thing.
They're like pillars at the
Not
entrance.
pillars. On the top of the temple, you have this
Oh
long
yes, correct,
thing,
correct.
right?
Yes, yes, yes.
Then even like mosques. So everything have something that goes towards the sky because they
Yeah.
kind of believe that that's where the god is. So
Yeah.
as close as you can get to God.
So really, the Burj Khalifa is one of the most religious places on the earth.
Yeah, but that's like the modern thing, right? It's no longer about religion. It's more about hey, who can reach the sky first?
Yeah, but then
It's like space race past part two.
basically, but then if someone was looking to find the most religious place, it would be like the top floor of the Burj Khalifa
Maybe.
because that's the
No.
closest to God.
Yeah.
Except some, where is it? Where's the new one coming?
In Saudi.
Yeah, in Saudi they're trying to build a taller one.
Yeah.
So yeah, you never know. Um, but there's also a curveball, right?
Yeah.
At the end of the day, because what if the reason GT was buried wasn't about abandonment, but intentional preservation?
Yeah, like let's talk about it for a second, right? So the site wasn't destroyed by nature or conquest like we see with the other
Hmm.
civilizations we've uncovered, right? It was carefully backfilled with tons of debris and like someone went out of the way to hide and protect it.
It's like kind of like like sealing a time capsule or like hiding a library during a war. Like what were they afraid of, and who was it meant for?
Maybe not us, maybe for their future generations, or maybe they knew that the world was about to change,
Hmm.
whether that's ice melting, sea levels rising, chaos coming. Like maybe this was like their gift to the future.
So it's sort of like a warning or like some sort of manual or like like a combination of both of them.
Either way, the carvings of Göbekli Tepe are not just decorative, right? They're deliberate. And the more we study them, the more it feels like we're only scratching the surface of a deep, forgotten intelligence.
And the big question is like why did it all disappear and what happened to these people with their knowledge and their stories?
Yeah, so that's what we're actually going to look at next. That could it be that the Göbekli Tepe was the last stand of a lost civilization, or did something just wipe them out? So now that we're, we're kind of staring at the edge of this mystery, right?
Ooh,
We're saying that
I've been staring at the
the Göbekli Tepe is 12,000 years old or 11,000, like between 11 to 12,000. We're saying it shows sophisticated planning. We say that might have had astronomical knowledge. But what happened to the people who actually built it?
they vanished. Yes,
It seems like it, doesn't it?
that's the thing. There's no clear continuation, no gradual kind of like decline, no obvious wars, just disappearance. And the site gets buried like nothing. It wasn't meant to be found, and that's so creepy, and that's messing with my brain so much. Like, like okay. So even if the entire race like disappeared, right? There has to be some other evidence of them existing.
Yeah, so let's bring in this theory, right? We're saying that what if Göbekli Tepe wasn't just an early civilization, but a leftover of an older one, right?
Hmm.
So a remnant that survived a massive global catastrophe.
So we're talking like post-apocalyptic survivors, like holding on to their knowledge, trying to restart society with what little they have left.
Yeah, and this is where the younger dryas impact hypothesis comes back, right? Because around 10,800 BCE, something causes a sudden return to ice age conditions. The glaciers stop melting, the temperature plummets, and species go extinct, and literally cultures are vanishing.
And the GT, it's built literally right after the event. It's almost like someone basically hit reset on humanity, and GT was the
Yeah,
reboot.
right. Like literally, like we're talking some time back, and people also start asking, like, was there an advanced civilization before all of this? And was GT their attempt to preserve knowledge? Maybe they lost everything, their tech, city systems, and basically just started again in stone.
So the author Graham Hancock and others argued that mainstream archaeology is missing the bigger picture, and that history isn't linear; it's cyclical, and that basically means that civilizations rise, they fall, and they get buried over time, or they get drowned and flooded over time.
And we know that sea levels rose by over 100 meters after the ice age, right? That's kind of enough to wipe out an entire coastal city. And, the kind of places where actually thriving culture would have settled at
Yeah.
that point.
But all we're left with is GT, which is sitting inland like a memory anchor, one that somehow has escaped destruction.
And the burial, right? The deliberate way it was sealed, it starts to feel more like an act of desperation. Like, they knew something was coming and wanted the site to survive it.
Could it have been war or like a climate event, disease possibly, or just time doing what it does.
Or did these people go underground, right? What if they migrated far away, pass on their knowledge in hidden ways?
You know what I just realized?
Yeah.
You know how there's this whole theory and hypothesis of mole people?
Mm-hmm.
What if the people,
These people are the mole people.
yeah, the people who, because mole people are supposed to be really good at building
Yeah.
and like harvesting stuff.
Yeah.
So what if,
You never know, isn't it?
yeah, and they just have the secret knowledge, but they're staying underground, so you can't know. So it's really hard to tell that way. And like, but the lack of skeletal remains and the sudden stop in construction and the massive intentional backfilling, all of it paints a picture of such a mysterious end.
And maybe, just maybe, Göbekli Tepe wasn't just the beginning of civilization, but the end of something older, right? Something we still don't understand.
But they did try to tell us in carvings and alignments, but in literally like stones that whisper across millennia.
But I think the question is, are we listening or reading or understanding at this point?
Not yet.
Okay, so moving ahead, we've talked about the architecture, right? We've talked about the carvings, we've talked about the timelines, we've talked about the disappearance. What if Göbekli Tepe wasn't just a temple or a settlement? What if it was a message board?
Like a literal time capsule, like meant to preserve knowledge or like warnings for future civilizations.
Exactly, exactly. Like think about it, right? 200 plus massive stone pillars. They're just arranged in circles, covered in animal symbols and celestial references, all buried deliberately. That screams intention, right? Not abandonment. I mean, why would you go through so much to
Yeah.
carve each thing? It's stone carving is not easy. It's
Yeah, it's
not
not.
butter where you can just drop
Yeah.
something on it, right? It's stone. So it's not easy. Why would you go through all the difficulties of carving to
Yeah.
just bury it and vanish?
So like it's like they weren't just building it for themselves. They were building it for someone far, like far, far in the future. Like, could it be for this generation?
But some of the carvings, like the famous vulture stone, right, have been interpreted as astronomical records. So maybe even representing comet impacts or celestial alignments.
Yeah, like the one that might depict the younger Dryas comet theory as if they were recording an extinction level event they like witnessed.
And that changes the game, right? Because this isn't just a ritual art. It's data carved into stone. It's like a warning carved into pillars because they knew it would outlast paper, language, and memory.
And guess what? If we weren't at our current level of satellite technology and radiocarbon dating, we wouldn't have understood any of this, and we would have just thought, oh, cool old rocks.
So maybe they knew that they were going to be erased, but they hoped someone someday would be smart enough to decode what they left behind.
Yeah. And that really brings up the question, what else is out there, like buried and waiting to be found, and how many messages have we already walked past without realizing?
And doesn't it like kind of make you look at things differently? Because you're like, I don't know. I feel like now you're gonna rethink everything you've just left to be like, oh, I don't know what this is. I don't know. Like, do you think archaeologists just have these random thoughts and they're like, oh my god, what if that meant something? They go and dig back all the research they did
Yeah,
on something
yeah,
and then
possibly.
try to see it from a fresh set of
Yeah.
eyes.
I think that now anytime I see a rock like randomly coming out from a random place, I'm gonna be like, oh my god, GT's twin. Wow. You know, is this just random remains from like an early civilization? It's gonna mess with my mind.
Right? Because I mean, like even now, I'm just thinking, like, were the builders of GT like trying to preserve the memory of our civilization, or was it like a cosmic warning that they're trying to let out because they figured it out? They wanted other people to be safe. Like what? There could be just so much possible
You
there,
know what's
isn't
gonna
it?
be would be so funny?
Yeah.
You know, humans think of overthinking stuff.
Yeah.
What if this
They
was
also.
no? What if the GT was built just to like house some people,
Uh huh.
but then they weren't getting something right or the structure was incorrect
So they
enough to
just
hold,
buried it.
so
Yeah.
just buried it and created it somewhere else.
And we are like, oh my god, what is this?
Yeah, that would be hilarious, wouldn't it?
Yeah, but then again, questions, right? Why would you build if you wanted to be looking for a house? Why would you build a temple first?
But how do we know that's a temple? How do we know? Because okay, yeah, maybe what if it was a temple? But you
Mm.
know how temples also have places for people to stay.
Yeah, but
Like
then your focus would be on that place to stay, not on building. Oh my god, let's build an amazing temple, right?
overthinking stuff. Right? They just need to build something to live in, which also can function for different uses.
I mean, at this point, it could be anything.
Yeah, we at that point we had not as complex thought process as we do now.
Yeah,
So all they thought was, hey, you know, religion is could be spreading through. We need a place to stay. We need a place to eat all of our
but
food.
that brings a question, isn't it? Was religion even a thing at that point?
Who knows?
Exactly, right? Like, what if they weren't even thinking of it as a religion point of view?
Yeah,
It
and
was just something. Their creativity was building it like a temple, like
yeah,
what we know as today's temples.
yeah. So at the
But
end of
maybe
the day,
like that
maybe it
was just
wasn't even
their
a
building.
temple.
Maybe could be.
Maybe they saw a little woolly mammoth and thought, hey, that's a fun picture to draw. Let me draw it. Maybe they saw a vulture flying in the air. Oh, that's a cool vulture. Or that's a cool flying thing.
Maybe.
Let me just draw it. So at the end of the day, it could be something so complex.
Yeah.
Or,
Simple.
yeah. But like, either way, they succeeded because here we are, like 12,000 years later, still trying to figure out what they were trying to say.
Right. And maybe after all of this discussion, maybe the biggest mystery isn't what they built, but why did they actually bury it?
Because they got stuff wrong.
Or they were just trying to protect it from something.
Maybe.
Okay. My god. I just I wonder if you guys also gonna look at every part of the sand that you walk and be like, oh, what if something is there deep
Yeah,
down?
like, oh, I'm genuinely now gonna see if there's like plain sand somewhere and there's just this random rock. Doesn't even have to be sticking out from the ground. There's just a random rock place somewhere.
Like so this a few months back we'd actually gone to Jordan
Yeah.
and over there we'd gone to Petra, right?
Yeah.
Sorry, not but this was not in Petra. We'd gone to the other place, which is name I've forgotten. But basically it was so they know, okay, with all the scanning and all, they have seen so there was this hill kind of thing, right? There were all these monuments on the side. There's just this hill. And we're wondering what is this huge hill? And he's like, so the guide was like, no, they're like the double or triple size of what you see outside is what is underground right now. And we can see it with our scanners, but it's just too costly to dig it up. And
Yeah.
then the government does
Oh my
not
god, yes, I
have
remember.
that money right now for us to dig it
Yeah.
up. So hence we know it is all there, but we can't get it out in any way. And
Yeah.
that's just like, can you imagine how much of history is just buried over there?
Exactly.
Right? Like, I mean, of course, the
Oh
scanner
my
can only
god, it
give you like a
was.
heat image, right?
So this was the temples
Yeah.
of the Greek gods that we went to. There was
Even now, the pyramids
Artemis,
that
there
we're
was
seeing.
Zeus.
Have you seen the latest thing of the pyramids?
No, I have
They
not.
found that there's this huge, like a pipe kind of thing. It's not exactly pipes,
Yeah.
but it's all the way connecting all the way, like way deep down.
Really?
Yeah, so there's actually like something else
Oh my god.
there. Yeah. And then there are people who are like, oh my god, first time under the pyramid. And it's proper AI videos. You can see it is AI. So I don't know what they were trying to achieve. So I'm
Yeah,
like, bro,
because I don't think if they just recently found out, they wouldn't let people in just yet.
exactly. So they're
They
like,
have
first ever
to.
video from under the pyramid. And I'm like, I don't really
Yeah,
think so.
the
It
like
looks so fake.
the archaeologists need to like see if what is there, dig out the sites, see
Yeah.
everything, and then
And it's not just easy. You can't just take a shovel and start digging. There's a lot of
yeah,
process. You have to,
exactly.
a lot
How
of
would you even get? So is it like a
government
narrow?
barriers you have to.
Is it like a narrow pipeline kind of
I mean,
thing?
technically, it's not that narrow, right? Like in the
Yeah,
picture, it's obviously scaled off, so you can't. It looks
yeah,
like one pipe. It's
right. But
obviously
I'm like,
bigger.
can you
I will
push
show you
a
after we finish
machine
this.
through it or something?
I'm sure you could.
Yeah. But
It's
like
more
just
like a
dropping
tunnel.
it,
It's more
it's
like a
like
tunnel
right.
under.
But dropping the machine could literally break it.
No, I can't go dropping. You'll have to go down.
Okay, but machines are meant to go like
Yeah, but
this.
they can go like this also.
Actually,
Yeah,
okay. I was thinking like gravity would like.
yeah, that's why they have brakes and they have different
Mm.
systems. Okay, so getting back to this, right? So we've started in the whole abyss of this, I'm gonna say it, Göbekli Tepe, right? This impossible place, like that was built by people we didn't think could build, that contains symbols we don't fully understand, and it's buried for reasons we still can't explain.
And it's humbling, honestly, because everything we thought we knew about the birth of civilization, agriculture first, then religion, then cities, GT just walked up to that theory, flipped the table, and then said, "Think again."
So let's just recap, right? Some of the biggest unanswered questions that this site leaves behind. One is, who are the people who built it? Because we have absolutely no idea, nothing that we know about it.
Yeah.
Second is, how did they move and erect those massive T-shaped stones without metal tools or the wheels, right? We question the pyramid, but I mean, during the pyramids there was wheels, so you could still imagine that a elephant
Yeah.
has pulled
Yeah.
something, right? When we talk about these people, there were not even wheels,
That we
unless
know of.
exactly, unless they had some other technology
Yeah.
that's just gone
So
vanished right now.
my question is, what if they had technology which is even more advanced to the technology we have right now, but obviously has been wiped out?
Yeah, it could be. We just don't know, right? And then another question is, why did they actually bury it, right? And it there's a chance it wasn't just buried once, but it was buried multiple times over centuries. And most importantly, the question is, what was it actually for?
And before my brain spirals a little too much, let's talk about like possible solutions or like at least the leading theories.
Yeah. So theory one is that it was a religious site, right? So it's a sort of an ancient cathedral for early humans to gather and perform rituals that make sense on the surface, especially with the intricate carvings and the deliberate circular layout. And people might have come here seasonally, even before agriculture took root, to celebrate, mourn, or worship.
But then you have theory two. That it was an astronomical astronomical observatory. The layout of the pillars and their alignment with the stars, like Sirius, or the carvings depicting um solstices,
Solstice.
solstice. There we go. And like comet impacts, point to knowledge of the sky that we didn't think that hunter gatherers had.
Right. And then there obviously comes theory three, where this wasn't just the birthplace of spirituality or science, it was actually a memory of a lost civilization, one that may have existed before the Younger Dryas, before the Ice Age wiped the slate clean.
Like an Atlantis moment, except real. Maybe they saw coming like a cosmic impact or a sudden freeze and the rising waters, so they left us with this message in stone, hidden under earth.
And that burial might not have been an accident because it could have been protection, right? Because they knew if someone in the future found it, might we had reached a point where we might understand.
And here's the wildest part. What if GT wasn't the first of its kind? And what if it's just the first we found?
Oh, absolutely. Because there could be dozens of GTs still buried across the globe. We've only scratched the surface, like literally.
Good one. Especially since it's estimated that over 90% of the site is still underground, and the satellite imagery hints at similar structures nearby.
So, like, what's next, right? Maybe new excavation techniques, maybe in AI, because I mean, AI is such a huge thing now.
Yeah.
Maybe in AI integrating the symbol, interpreting the symbols, maybe another unexpected discovery halfway across the world that kind of matches these carvings.
Or maybe nothing. Maybe GT will remain one of those thousand unsolved puzzles, reminding us that human history isn't a straight line. It's more like a spiral, complicated, mysterious, and completely full of lost chapters.
That's sad, isn't it? But it's also kind of the beauty of it,
Yeah.
right? Like the mystery, that the idea that we're not the first to wonder about the stars or to leave something behind for those who come next.
So, whether it was a temple, a warning, a calendar, or a classroom, GT stands out like a massive carved question mark in the middle of our timeline.
And we're quite just lucky to be part of the generation that gets to ask, who are they? What did they know? And that we've forgotten.
And on that note, that is it for this episode of Unreal and Unsolved. If your brain is spinning, like ours very much is, my advice to you would be to go stare at the sky or touch some rocks or just question everything you've learned at school or anywhere else.
And hey, don't forget, every mystery we uncover is a reminder that maybe history isn't what happened, but what we remember.
So, see you next time for another dive into the unexplained, the unreal, and the still unsolved.
So until next time, stay curious, stay chaotic, and stay tuned. Bye.
Bye!